Hi, everyone. My name is Judy, and I am a money coach. I help women and couples become financially free. And today I have Jannese from Quiero, Dinero podcast. And she is going to be talking to us about how she was able to monetize her blog and start making real money as her side hustle, aside from her day job that brings in money on a regular basis. So, Jannese, could you introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So my name is Jannese Torres-Rodriguez. I'm born and raised in New Jersey, Puerto Rican. I moved to Florida a couple years ago, and so I am an engineer by day, and by night, I am a blogger. So specifically, I have a food blog called delicioulights.com, and I started that back in 2013 as a frustrated quarter life crisis outlet for just the getting away from the grind of the 9 to 5. I've always loved cooking, and I've always loved food and the power of food and connection with it, within families and within people. So I decided that first I tried being a personal chef because, I'm like, okay, I guess if I'm gonna do something with food, I have to make it, right? So I did that for a couple gigs, and I was just like, no, this is not for me. I'm just not about that life. So
Yeah,
I
people do
started
not get
thinking
paid
about,
well in that
yes,
world.
no, it's very hard work, and the hours are long. It's, you're exhausted by the time you're done. Your feet are killing
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, there has to be another way. And I realized that I had been following food bloggers like Skinny Taste and the Pioneer Woman. And I realized, hey, they're doing this, right? They have websites that are dedicated to food. They're sharing with millions of people. Why can't I do the same thing? So I started really with no background. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know any bloggers. I didn't know anybody who had a blog personally. I didn't know how to do food photography. I didn't know how to write for the internet and for blogging, because it's not just like writing in a journal, right? There's techniques to get your stuff actually noticed, and I'm sure we're going to get into that. But yeah, I basically had to teach myself how to do all this stuff. And as time went on, it's funny, I think the best thing that ever happened to me and my food blog was me getting laid off from my 9 to 5 back in
Wow.
2014, because it actually gave me about 3 months to fully dedicate to the blog. I had nothing else to do, and I didn't really have a lot of stress about finding another job right away because I got a decent severance package. So I'm like, listen, this is the thing I've been asking for. Like, I've been asking for the time to actually have to dedicate to this, so why not do it? So I took a quick hour and a half long course at a culinary school in New York City, and it was actually Intro to Food Blogging. It was run by a blogger by the name of Just a Taste on Instagram, and she basically went over everything that I didn't know about food styling, about SEO, about how to actually monetize your blog. And that's when the light bulb went off for me. I'm like, wow, I could actually be making some money at this.
Wow.
And so I started following all the techniques that I picked up from her class and just practice. And in 2019, I actually ended up earning over $46,000 through my blog.
Wow. So it's close to 50K that year. And
Yeah.
what did you make the years prior to that?
So let me see. I pulled up the numbers here. And so 2016, I only made around $2,300. So that was still in the build process. 2017, I made over 10,000. 2018, over 21,000. And then last year was over 46.
Wow.
Yep.
And one thing you had mentioned to me before was the fact that you actually didn't put that much work in updating your blog, actually putting blog posts up in 2019. So how much work did you actually put in 2019 on your blog?
Yeah, so in 2019, I was in flux. I had just moved to Florida the fall before that. So I was there was a lot of stuff going on. I really didn't have a lot of time to dedicate it to it. So I would say probably 40 hours throughout the entire year. I actually blogged and earned over $46,000, which is
Wow.
just insane.
Wow. So now it took a lot of work up front the first couple years, but now you're at a point where it's just literally passive income. It's just
Yeah.
coming in. Wow.
And I think the front-loaded work is kind of what discourages people a lot. It's, they don't see the immediate return on investment, and then that can get discouraging. But it takes time to build anything that makes money, you know, like Amazon and Microsoft and Tesla. These companies were not built overnight. Like, so
Yeah.
I think it's important to realize that you see the success of an entrepreneur and you forget all the work
Mhm.
that gets put in behind the scenes, right? Those long hours, the burning the midnight oil, like doing the stuff
Yeah.
after your 9 to 5 is done.
Yeah.
That's what differentiates like the normal people, right, from people that build like a legacy and builds
Yes.
wealth.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one thing we hear a lot when people are talking about monetizing a blog is learning about SEO, search
Hmm.
engine optimization.
Yep.
But you don't always hear exactly what does that actually look like on a tangible basis. So could you
Sure.
walk us through, you're getting ready to post another recipe on your blog. What do you do to get that recipe noticed using SEO?
Yeah, so that search engine optimization, which is what SEO stands for, is the thing that definitely like monetized the hell out of my blog, because at that point the traffic was constant, it was growing, and I actually started to understand like, okay, how do I actually format what I'm writing to actually get picked up by search engines, right? Because the whole point of a search engine is that it wants to answer the question that you're asking it in the most efficient way possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't want you to have to continue to search and search and search to get your answer. So
Oh.
if you go into it knowing that, then there are specific techniques that you can use to improve your search engine optimization on your blog. So one of the first things that I do when I'm creating a new recipe, for instance, I go to trends.google.com, and that's a free website that Google has, and you can actually see what people are searching for. So you can start to understand trends, right? And you can start to build out your keywords. So what are you actually going to call this blog post? You should go based on what people are searching for related to the topic that you're interested in writing in. So recently I did a recipe for like a Cajun style shrimp pasta. So I phrased it a couple different ways in that search engine. I said, should I call it Creole shrimp pasta? Should I use the word creamy? Should I use the word Creole versus Cajun? And it actually told me I should use the word Cajun because that's what people are searching for. That's how people
Wow.
think of that. When they want to make that dish, that's what they're searching for. So knowing that, then I knew what to name my actual blog post. And I knew what my keyword was going to be. So I was going to have to say a couple times throughout the post, Cajun shrimp pasta, because that's what people are searching for.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do things like that, Google recognizes that in your text. And it's like, okay, this is actually probably going to match what this person's searching for. So that's really important. And then other things that affect SEO are things that you might not think of right away, but like your page speed. How quickly does your blog take to load? The
Mm.
slower it takes to load, the more likely you are to get a bad ranking from Google, and they won't show your results because they're going to see that people click away from the site before it even loads because they're just waiting forever for it to get fully loaded.
Oh, wow. I never would have thought about that.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I had to, I figured out later when my traffic started booming and I started having my site crash because my web host just couldn't handle the traffic.
Oh,
And one of the things they told me is that like your plan is not adequate for supporting the amount of traffic that your website has, so you're gonna have to upgrade, right?
yeah.
So it's something that I had to learn on the fly. And then another thing that's really important is your website mobile friendly, which
Mm.
means is it viewable on a phone versus your desktop? If you look at a site, it's going to look differently depending on what device you're looking at it. It'll look different on an iPad or an iPhone or a desktop. And the websites have to be formatted specifically to be able to be viewed on both devices without losing the flow and losing the
Mm.
navigability of the site. So there are ways to factor that in when you're building your site, and a lot of that has to do with the template that you choose. Your template will tell you if it's mobile friendly or not, so that's really important.
Okay.
And then things like, you know, how old your website is, that's not really something you can control. So that's why I tell people, look, if you want to start a blog, start it now, because the older it gets, the more, you know, those webs of the articles that you're creating, they'll live on Google longer, and it'll just gain like trust and a reputation because it's been there for a while. And one way to think about that is like if you're searching for a news article,
Mhm.
right? what sites come up first? It's like CNN or NBC or like the big conglomerates, right?
Mhm.
You're more likely to find those that are well-established sites versus like some independent third-party like journalist site that you've never heard of. So
Yeah.
it's just about kind of gaining that reputation and that trust on search engines.
Okay, that makes sense. And one thing you had mentioned before when we were talking
Hmm.
was that when you figure out like that word like Cajun, you want it multiple times. Where do you want it
Yes.
on your site?
Yeah, so you definitely want it in the title. You want it in your first paragraph at least once, and you want it either maybe 2 to 4 more times throughout your post.
Okay.
Now, there are people who try to work the system and get around SEO by overloading their posts with keywords. And that's actually, you can get dinged for that because Google
Okay.
also recognizes when you're kind of like overdoing it. So
Okay.
one of the tools that I use to make sure that I'm complying and I'm writing good SEO is a plugin called Yoast. So Yoast, and it's a free plugin that you can use when you're using WordPress, and it basically tells you everything that you need to do to have good SEO on
Wow.
your website.
I gotta add that to my blog now.
Yes, it's the best tool ever.
Okay. And I'll work on putting this all these websites in the show notes. So this is really great, valuable information. I really appreciate it. Now, as a Latina, a woman of color, you know, it's amazing that you're able to make now this income passively. And there's a lot of other women of color who are working, you know, have a lot going against them. And they're working to be financially free. And so I wonder if you have any advice for those women.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found to be a little discouraging was that there weren't a lot of people that looked like me that were doing this,
Mm,
right? So I think it's important to like try and find people that you relate to and that inspire you, because it'll make you realize like, hey, it's not just for those people. Like there's people that look like me doing it too.
mhm.
And I think that's important for anything, even personal finance. Like, when it doesn't matter like who's giving you the message as much as like how it resonates with you. So you
Yes.
can have like 10 different people giving you the same advice, but if you don't relate to them on that level, like it won't get through to you. So that's important. And I think like it's just important for us to remember that we come from an ancestry and
Mm,
a people that are resilient
yes.
and that are go-getters and that don't give up. So don't give up when things get hard. We all have an immigrant story. We all have like these people in our ancestry that just overcame like amazing things, and
Mm.
each generation has built up and succeeded more than the other. So you just got to remember that like it's your time to succeed and to add that next level of like generational legacy to your lineage, and focus on that when you get discouraged.
That's really powerful. I really appreciate you being willing to jump on here and share this stuff with me and all the women who are going to see this. It's just really inspiring hearing your story, and it inspired me even as a money coach. I have a blog, so I'm working now to monetize it. So that
Yay,
why not? You know, I want to
of
build a business that has
course.
multiple streams of income, so that way I can have that the same financial security. So it's so great to talk with you. Thank you so much. And to everyone out there, thank you for watching and have a great day.
Thank you.